Welcome back. So in the previous video we have learned about UseState Hook with objects, and it was very powerful, even if we have took it in a very basic example. But again, we are going to build an authentication system with a real backend, with a real database, and it will make more sense later on. For the time being, I want to just memorize at least the syntax of the UseState Hook and how does it works. Now we are gonna go and learn about the UseState Hook with array, because this is the last one that we can use the UseState Hook with. So now I'm gonna show you the feature that we want to implement, and then we are gonna implement it step by step. So if I click on the books page right here, you will see that we have some loading, and now we are fetching some books from the database, from the API. How does this functionality work? Okay, so in order for us to implement this kind of functionality, we need to go ahead and use the UseState Hook. And of course here, by the way, I have cleared the project a little bit, the file, so we have only a function, and that's return a div, and that's it. Now what I will do, I will say constant, and here I'm just gonna say books, and here set books as a second argument, and here I'm just gonna make use of the UseState Hook. Now here, what is the initial value for our array? And as you can see, we are not getting the data immediately. We are waiting for the data to come back from the server, right? So if I click on refresh, you will see this loading that will show up right here. When this indicates that the data has not come yet, it's not ready to be displayed. Okay, so that's why here we need to start with an empty array. Okay, just to, let's say, give us that we are storing an array, but it's empty because we don't have the data yet. Make sense? And of course now we don't have any database integration or something like that, so we need to simulate fetching or these items. So what I will do here on the top, outside of my function, I'm gonna create a constant. I'm just gonna call it old, or let's say book list, and I'm just gonna create my own array that has, for example, a name of any name, for example, web design. Okay, here just like I'm simulating, I'm creating these books right here. So again, I'm just gonna get some images from pixels. Again, we have done these steps. You can do it very simple. Again, I'm just gonna, let's say, hook up some of these images. So URL, that would be this one, and again we can copy, just for example, we can add also the price just to make it more real world, and I'm just gonna duplicate this one right here. And by the way, I'm gonna show you some in a second thing that you can do. By the way, if you don't like this thing right here, we can cut it. Okay, cut it outside, and here inside our source folder, I'm just gonna create a new folder, call it utility. Okay, just util for the time being. I'm just gonna say data.js. okay, and again we can export default an array, right, like so, without creating any variable or messing around. Okay, so I'm just gonna say app design or app development or whatever. I'm just gonna here, by the way, I'm not trying to be more real world. I'm just gonna simulate all these data right here. Okay, now what we can do, we can import this as data from the path that we need to give it. Okay, we need to go some level ups, and now we have the data right here. So what we have created or simulated that these books will be fetched from the server, from the API. Okay, but again, for the time being, let's go ahead and create it ourselves. Now what I will do here, I'm just gonna add a button. Okay, I'm just gonna call it fetch or get books. Okay, and what we can do, we can go ahead and add a function to this, or add an event. Sorry, it should be on a click. I'm just gonna call it get books or fetch books or whatever. Okay, so constant get books, it should equal to something like this. Okay, and now what we can do, we can say set books. This is something that we have done a lot, to be data, because this data is already an array. Okay, so that will take the old array and put it the new array inside it. So now here we can go ahead and render these books. So what I will do, I will for example say books. Sorry, here should be books but not book. I'm just gonna say books dot map, and for each one, what we will do for each item or for each book, we will say we are gonna add an h3 and we will render the, for example, the price or the name. So book dot, I guess we call it name, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but it should be render something here on the screen. So yeah, of course, first of all, because it's an empty array, so we don't see anything, but once we click on this button, that will go ahead and update our array. So let me simulate that. I'm going to click on get book so we can see these books right here. Now what I will do, I will do something interesting right here. So here I'm just gonna cut this thing. Okay, I'm gonna say something. Okay, so first of all, let me just get it back right here. So before we render anything right here, before we go ahead and let's say render anything, what we can do, let me show you something. I will say if books dot length, if the length is equal to 0, that means we don't have any items. What I want to render, well, I will just go ahead and render, for example, a loading component. In this case, we are going to set a div that say loading. Okay, that will just say loading. Otherwise, if this is not true, we are going to map through our books. Again, here I am adding a dynamic expression. I'm going to check first of all for the length of our array. If it's equal to 0, I will say loading. Otherwise, I'm going to map through the array inside our items, or sorry, the items inside our array. If we go back here, we can say it's loading. Once I click on get book, then we have it right here. So that's basically it. So this is how we can go ahead and work with use state with arrays. Of course, it's more complex than what we have now. We have a lot of things that we will do. But again, I think the most powerful hook that we are going to deal with is the use effect. And we will show you how we can do side effects with it. For example, this loading indicator. In order for us to add it, we have to implement the use effect. But again, don't rush yourself. We are going to take it step by step. I hope you guys understood the basics of use state with arrays, because it's very, very easy, I think. But again, hopefully you are get it. It's just a matter of storing an array, and then we can map it through it. We can update the array, we can filter, we can do a lot of stuff. But again, we will get to that once we build our authentication system, where it's going to be very, very complicated. So with that being said, I will see you in another one.